Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
Thanks to their Christmas Day victory, the Suns are a winning team, barely, but are they a likable team? That is a sticky, tricky question because from my random samplings, I'm hearing from a lot of people who are not exactly enamored with the latest iteration of your Phoenix Suns. And with the trade for Jimmy Butler becoming a fading pipe dream, here's some advice for our NBA team. Take a cue from ASU head coach Kenny Dillingham, whose motto is to have more fun while working harder than anybody else. That really needs to become the Suns' mantra as well because they're a team that doesn't always compete at the highest level, a team that doesn't always seem to be enjoying playing basketball for a living, which means Wednesday's victory over Denver was an exception that must become the rule. That game featured an energized team that made hustle plays and a team that held the Nuggets to just 22 points in 3 of 4 quarters. And that game came after Mike Budenholzer put his foot down, apparently telling some hard truths to his basketball team. Bottom line, the Suns need to commit to playing locked-in defense for 48 minutes a night, because to do that, you have to try hard. You have to really care, and trying hard is the easiest way to curry favor from a fan base, and it shouldn't be too much to ask from the NBA's first $400 million team.
Yeah, for sure. I think over our stretch, we kind of got away from ourselves and like Brad said, having fun and just getting after it. And I think yesterday, for starting from the bench, just everyone cheering each other on, just excited for one another. It was great energy, great vibes all around. And I think that's a small win that contributes to a larger win throughout the game.
So there you go, and that's kind of what's on the line for the Suns tonight. Big matchup against the Dallas Mavericks at Footprint Center. No Luka for the Mavs, no Devin Booker for the Suns. So the playing field's leveled in terms of injuries and missing stars. This is a good chance for the Phoenix Suns to build on what they did against the Nuggets on Wednesday, which was really commit to playing much better defense, something they hadn't done for about 2 weeks.
It really did, and I love in the Blast how you compared to the Kenny Dillingham, have fun, working harder than anyone in the country, and it feels like they have to be reminded of that. And so that's a combination of the maybe tough love from Coach Bud, which resulted into a little bit of a change with Ryan Dunn starting. I know he got 20 minutes. Royce O'Neal still got 30 minutes, but it felt like it set a little bit of a tone there. So I think he knows he's got to pull some strings to get this best effort, this great defensive effort. Bradley Beal was really good. He actually created a lot of offense off of some nice defensive plays. And so the question is, to your point, like, can it continue? How can it continue? How can this team create that environment where they're working that hard every night and also incorporating other parts? And maybe the two go hand in hand, having the role players play a more productive role in the outcome of the game.
I think what they did against the Nuggets, starting Ryan Dunn, is something that it guarantees you're going to have more energy than not. And this happened obviously because Devin Booker wasn't playing, but it's something you might want to consider, like you said, because I think you're guaranteed to get some of that energy that you need. It's interesting to me, and I'm positive, or I'm hopeful about this, because this is the first time to date that I am aware of Mike Budenholzer putting that proverbial foot down, of challenging the guys in however that sounded to get better, to do better, to care more, to try harder, to enjoy each other. And so they listened, because it showed on the court. The Nuggets scored 34 points, I believe, in the first quarter, but then the Suns 22, 22, 22 the rest of the way for the Nuggets. And the Suns have been so bad at coming out of halftime and matching the energy of the opponent. It's been one of their...
The third quarters have been bad.
The third quarters have, and some of them have been disastrous.
Yeah.
So to lock that down and to come out and match the Nuggets in the third quarter, and to beat the Nuggets in the third quarter, and to stack those 22-point quarters against a team that had Nikola Jokic, that had Jamal Murray. Now, Jamal Murray did not play well against the Suns, but a lot of that had to do with the Suns actually playing defense. So I hope they build on this tonight, because the narrative around this basketball team was getting very, very gloomy, very doomy.
Well, because the loss, I mean, that was the worst loss on the 23rd,
Yes.
just a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was the worst loss of the season. And the defense looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of it was, Nurkic, I'm pretty sure he was challenged because, it's not easy to defend Jokic, but he gave up a lot in that first of the two Christmas games, if we want to call it that, the Christmas Eve game.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back and played better. So there was a lot to fix, but you're right. If that was the first time that Coach Bud needed to, or felt that he needed to, really lay it out to this team, the good news is it did work.
That's right.
Because if it fell on deaf ears, then you've got a real problem. But it seems like, and maybe that goes a long way. Maybe it does wake them up a little, because as you ended the blast with the $400 million team, it almost blew my mind, because you're thinking, that is a whole lot of money to be spending
For mediocrity.
To need to have a little come to Jesus and let's play harder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Gerald Bourget, great writer for PHNX, actually used that metaphor. They had a come to Jesus moment on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah.
How fitting.
Right. Very, very fitting. But then you think about this too. It's difficult for any pro sports team to have elite connectivity when there's trade rumors rumbling throughout the locker room at all times. We know that Bradley Beal left shoot around in Golden State the day all that Jimmy Butler stuff dropped, right? And then he was injured that night, and he missed the next game as well. Chances are very, very good that was just an injury. But there's also the idea that, okay, if Bradley Beal suddenly gets blindsided by, what? They're thinking they want to move me? Yusuf Nurkic. Now we learned from Dwayne Rankin at AZ Central that he's being shopped. And you can't blame the Phoenix Suns. They've got a center issue. That kind of stuff can sap a team. It's connectivity. On the Bradley Beal thing, though, he has to know that his time in Phoenix has not been what everyone, the team and fans, have hoped. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's living in this delusional bubble where he could be blindsided by the idea that the Suns would want to try to move him if possible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I do know what you mean. So it's not like, other situations where whatever, like Aaron Rodgers. Oh, how could you draft my replacement? I thought you guys loved me, that kind of thing. Bradley Beal, now whether that he uses that to motivate him and say look, I'm going to show you what I'm worth to this team, or whether he sulks and feels like he is not wanted or whatever, we don't know how that's going to play out. Yeah, but I don't think he could be blindsided. I think Bradley Beal's part of the issue here. He had a terrific game against the Nuggets, right? Probably the best game of the season for him. But he flashed at the end of last year, too. He had a couple of games where he played elite-level defense, and we were like, wow, this guy can play defense. And he played defense against the Nuggets. So if you're capable of doing that, why aren't you doing it all the time? I don't know.
And the problem with being injured a lot is that you're always kind of waiting. It's like, well, if healthy, he's a good player. Mm-hmm. But, the injuries have been enough to make you wonder, just availability. How much is that the issue with Bradley Beal? And I think it is probably number one.
And also this version of the Suns right now is probably the best scenario to see the best version of Bradley Beal when he's the certain number two, when Devin Booker's not out there playing the same position, doing the same thing.
Yes.
I think the combo of him and Durant.
Which is also kind of, this is a storyline you guys have followed. Everyone has talked about it since Beal came over, is that they're different players, but the role is similar. And how does that really work? Now, they started out 8-1 when everybody was healthy and it was all good, so maybe it was working. But I do think that's still a little bit of an issue, is that at times, does Beal sit back and not let the game come to him and not be as aggressive when Booker's out there? How do you make it work with Durant and then the other two parts of the big three are playing a similar role, similar size players, similar defensive matchups,
Yeah, no, those are fair questions. I would just say bottom line, with Devin Booker out, Bradley Beal needs to pick up the slack. He needs to shoot the ball more. Last game was the first game all season he had 10 or more field goal attempts and a half. And that's got to be the norm.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta.
Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.